So Ukraine just struck a target more than 2,000 kilometers inside of Russian territory. That's 1,242 miles for my fellow Americans, which means roughly the distance from New York City to Miami, Florida. Now, these deep strikes, especially those against the refineries, are causing a fuel shortage in Russia. And despite Russian efforts to slow the bleed, we are still seeing videos, even today, of citizens lined up at the pump, hoping the gas station doesn't run out before they can fill up. And it's even worse in the occupied territories, meaning that military transport along the southern land bridge is facing new challenges in keeping the front supplied. Now, just a few hours ago, we got a new message from the Ukrainian SSO, or Special Operations Forces, saying that they struck the largest petrochemical complex in Russia, this one over 2,000 kilometers away, in Tobolsk-Tumen region of Russia. They say this is the largest petrochemical complex in Russia and a strategically important enterprise in the chemical industry. Now, we've seen Russian sources for a while now kind of complain that these targets are not being well protected. Fighter Bomber recently talking about this, a Russian military correspondent or mil blogger, said, quote, "Frankly, we need to accept that we cannot protect such easily vulnerable targets as oil refineries and fuel tanks with the existing means. We need to start thinking about scenarios in which we don't have oil refineries, mobile, compact, underground, underwater, under ice, space, I don't know. But it's obvious that the enemy can launch up to 500 drones at a target if necessary, and tomorrow it will be drones plus missiles. It's clear that we'll shoot them all down, even on takeoff, several times. But these fucking debris, you understand, will still reach their target somehow." So clearly a little bit of tongue-in-cheek there from Fighter Bomber. The joke is that Russia always shoots down every one of these drones, yet the debris falls on top of the target and still causes damage. And of course, I don't know how reasonable it is to move all of the oil refineries underground, or as he says, under ice or into space. But you can see it's causing an issue because these are big facilities. They don't move, right? So as opposed to a mobile target or even a command post near the front that might be in one building one day and a few weeks later shift to another location, these refineries, like you and I can look them up right now on Google Earth. So when it comes to targeting those, it's a fixed location. It's relatively easy compared with a lot of other targets throughout the country. And these are so spread out, like everywhere across the massive country that is Russia. They simply do not have enough air defense to protect everything all at once. That is why refineries are going up every single day. And I feel like this hasn't gotten the attention that it's deserved recently. We've almost gotten used to it, right? Refineries blow up in Russia. It's Tuesday, I guess. That's just a normal thing at this point. We've got multiple strikes happening across Russia on a near daily basis. Just last night, the Tanakel oil refinery in Tatarstan was hit. They say the complex's design capacity for raw materials is approximately 13 million tons of oil per year. On the 8th, the Yaroslavl oil refinery, with a design capacity of 15 million tons per year, is one of the top 5 largest oil refineries in Russia. Ukraine says the plant specializes in deep oil refining and produces gasoline, diesel fuel, aviation fuel, jet fuel, fuel oil, and other petroleum products. On the 6th, there was another one hit in the Ufa group of oil refineries. Design capacity for primary oil processing is 7.1 million tons of oil per year. Those are just in the last couple days. Like not even for the month of August, just the last 4 days here. You can just keep going back. We're probably going to have to do a better job keeping track of all of the refineries that get hit. And a key note here is there's very few that I'm tracking at this point that are completely out of commission. But recent studies have shown that overall production inside of Russia is down by about 40%. Look, you knock that down 5%, it's a major issue. 40% is something you feel right away. And we're seeing that in multiple areas of Russia right now. Another Russian war correspondent, Veteran Notes, said, quote, "Mobile fire groups consisting of self-defense units should have been established in every region a long time ago. Yes, even in the Far East. Because once these drones cross the border of Russia, they are no longer met with resistance. Our country is vast, and air defense simply cannot cover the entire territory. The only solution at this point is to multiply these mobile fire groups equipped with rotating turrets and anti-aircraft FPV drones. Such units should be in every region." We've seen a little bit of that, and when we use the term mobile fire groups, it is wide ranging. I mean, we've got guys with shotguns on the back of military vehicles trying to shoot down FPVs as they come in, all the way to like dedicated mobile units. In fact, I'll put up some pictures here of one that just came out from the Leningrad region, so a little more wealthy area of Russia. These guys got all the equipment, right? Exactly what they need. All the fanciest high tech. They got interceptors, a truck, some random component that they're just going to strap a machine gun into that makes it look a little more futuristic than it actually is. Either way, we're seeing these pop up not just within the military, but in the private sector as well. So a lot of these corporations that are running the refineries or wildberry facilities as well are looking into ways to protect their facilities. This is the answer, all right? They're not going to be able to park a number of actual air defense assets like Pantsers and Book systems outside of refineries all across the country. It doesn't exist. They don't have enough. But they could have enough of these mobile defense groups if they continue to build them out. We've seen this as a focus of Russia here in the last couple months. Now, refinery after refinery after refinery after refinery getting hit does eventually lead to a shortage. Shouldn't be a bit of a shock here. The Kyiv Post talking about this said, quote, Russia has been grappling with a nationwide fuel shortage after Ukraine targeted all major refineries in the country in recent months. Car queues could be seen across the country, particularly in Siberian regions, outside gas stations amid nationally imposed fuel rationing, with law enforcement and teachers deployed in some cases to quell occasional disputes. Imagine being a teacher, being told you got to go out there and deal with the argument at the fuel line across the street. That's a recipe for disaster. They say as a result of the crisis, Russia, the world's third largest fossil fuel producer, has banned exports of gasoline starting in April, of jet fuel starting in June, and of diesel starting July 8th, while importing gasoline from India, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. That has been the short-term patch. And if we go back probably 2 months, there was a lot of talk of the shortages popping up across Russia, the rationing in a number of areas throughout the country. That kind of faded, and it looks like it coincided with the import of gasoline from a number of countries. The first imports Russia's had in a long time, needing in a long, long time. It's looking like that is not keeping up with the demand right now. And it would be a bit of a surprise if Russia is able to import, equal to 40% of what they lost in the last few months. So this is starting to have an impact. The Russian response at this point we've seen is to create more of these mobile fire groups. Of course, that's on the defensive side. Russian media Rybar has another solution: depopulate the cities. Just want to point this one out because they seem to come back to this time and time again when things blow up inside of Russia. Rybar says, quote, acting from a defensive posture will not change the situation. Therefore, in addition to strengthening our own defense capabilities, we must work towards long-term solutions. There are many options: destroying enemy infrastructure and personnel, making cities uninhabitable. Every time something goes boom inside of Russia, we see a number of folks inside the country say, not let's double down at the front, or can we destroy, airfields or drone production facilities, but straight up make cities uninhabitable, flatten Ukraine to the ground. We're hearing that more and more as things continue to burn inside of Russia. And we've seen an uptick in Russian missile launches in recent weeks. The proportion of missiles flying in Ukraine is a major challenge because Ukraine does not have the interceptors to bring those down. There's a major interceptor shortage, not just in Ukraine, but around the world right now. We did, however, see a pretty significant munitions deployment announced just yesterday, where Turkey is actually going to be sending $280 million worth of munitions to Ukraine, I should make clear, Ukraine is purchasing that from Turkey, set to take place here in the coming months. According to United 24, the package includes 12 tracked M270 MLRS launchers. So that's the tracked version. HIMARS is the wheeled version. It has one pod on the back. The M270 is tracked. It has 2 pods, same munitions. So 12 MLRS launchers, 70 M39 ATACMS missiles, so the Army Tactical Missile Systems, long-range missiles, 2,524 MiG-26 227mm unguided rockets fitted with DPICM cluster warheads. So the dual-purpose improved conventional munitions, cluster munition, 2,500 of those that can be launched out of the HIMARS and ATACMS, and 47,000 203mm cluster artillery shells. A lot of artillery rounds. They say the overall value of the transfer is estimated at approximately $280 million. They added the package as part of Turkey's effort to dispose of older weapons and ammunition while providing Ukraine with systems already compatible in their existing arsenal. Now, a key note here, I did see some folks say, wait a minute, I thought the United States was short on munitions, especially these ATACMs, the long-range precision stuff. By all accounts, we don't have as many as we would like right now. These are Turkish munitions. Turkey purchased these from the United States and are now opting to sell them to Ukraine. So the U.S. involvement here is because these were originally manufactured in the United States, Turkey requires approval from the U.S. before transferring them to a third country. According to United 24, Congress has 15 calendar days to review the notification. Unless lawmakers adopt a joint resolution blocking the transaction during that period, the transfer can proceed. I mean, I guess technically, if Turkey's looking to get rid of these, maybe the United States could buy them. I'm not sure on the Mike 39. Depends what type of ATACMs those actually are. If we would be interested in buying them back or not. But again, to stress, that's not coming out of the U.S. arsenal. That is Turkey selling their munitions to Ukraine with the approval of the United States, which I would not expect this to be blocked. So expect those munitions to arrive in Kyiv here before too awful long. Now, a video came out a couple days ago that I wanted to share with you. Our friend Ryan Hendrickson, a former Green Beret, retired Green Beret, wounded in Afghanistan. We've had him on the channel a couple times to talk about his demining missions that he's going on in Ukraine through tip of the spear landmine removal. And Ryan did this short documentary, about 20 minutes, and it's great, talking about why he's doing what he's doing, the day-to-day, and the impact it's having in Ukraine. So I'll put a link in the description and pin comment below. If you got 20, 30 minutes, it's worth a watch. Ryan is just such an incredibly good person, like through and through. So go support Ryan. Give that a watch. But that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.